Today's guest has been in remission from bipolar and MS for 3 years and lost 120 pounds on the carnivore diet. So stay tuned. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. Today, I am very excited to share an interview I did with my friend Emily Penton, who is also known as Carnivore Minds over on Instagram. She has an absolutely amazing story of how she has been in remission from bipolar and MS, two things that most people will tell you are completely incurable, that they have to be managed over the course of your lifetime. She's had no symptoms and is off of all medications by using a carnivore diet. Now, as I mentioned in that intro, she has also lost 120 pounds, but she rarely even talks about it because of all the success that she's had with those other health issues. I love Emily. She is just a ray of light. I'm so excited for you to meet her. We also have 2 previous interviews that we have done that is going to be linked down in the information section below, as well as how you can get in touch with her if you want to work with her yourself. She does offer coaching. And again, I just think she's a really wonderful person who has so much to offer and a heart to really help people. Now, if you'll look in the information section, you're also going to see several timestamps. I did go through this episode and detail it as much as possible in the information section, so please check those out. And those timestamps are going to be brought to you by my 2 sponsors. The first one is going to be Optimal Carnivore. We use their grass-fed liver complex as well as their organ meat complex. This is just desiccated organ meats that I think some people could benefit from and fill in those nutritional gaps in their diet. My code to save on Amazon on these supplements is carnivore uppercase Y, and that will save you 10% on those organ meat capsules. The second sponsor of today's episode is Upgraded Formulas. I'm a daily user of their magnesium formula, but they also have a really wonderful hair tissue mineral analysis with a consultation that can help you get to the bottom of any mineral imbalances you have from the comfort of your home. It is extremely simple to just test yourself, and I always recommend getting that consultation with Upgraded Formulas, again, to figure out if you have mineral imbalances like low sodium, low potassium, or low magnesium. You may not even need a magnesium supplement. You might be taking things that you don't need. My code to save over there is either Yogi12 or Yogi if you've used that code before. And I thank my 2 sponsors again for sponsoring today's episode. I really do hope that you enjoy it. Thanks, guys. All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming back and tuning in. I am super excited about today's guest. I had to actually finally say, you know what? I'm going to turn on the recording because we probably could have talked another hour before we started this. So, Emily, thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It's been 2 years.
It has
we've
been.
done this. So yeah, I'm really, really glad that we made time for this.
Me too. Me too. So most of my viewers, maybe they haven't watched our 2 previous interviews before. I'm going to link those in the show notes for everyone if they want to watch more of a long form, but let's just talk a little bit about your story. I know since the last time we talked was like January 2020. So I want to talk about your original story, and then maybe we can like do some updates as we go. So
yeah, absolutely.
Dive into it. Yes.
So I had been suffering with bipolar disorder, and it had turned into, by 2018, it had turned into rapid cycling, where, with bipolar disorder, you have the mania and then you have the depression, and it goes through like a 3-month cycle or a month cycle or whatever. Mine went into every day. I didn't know who I was going to be. And so I got to the point where I couldn't work. And I was out of work and just a shell of a human. It was absolutely horrible. And then February 24th of 2019, my brother sent me, well, actually February 23rd, my brother sent me a book from Amber O'Hearn. And I learned that this woman has been eating carnivore for 10 plus years and that she resolved her bipolar disorder. And so I was just like, if she can do it, then I can try. Like, there's a hope. And so February 24th of 2019, I went from the standard American diet, not even like healthy. Like, I was eating like, I would make 2 batches of cookie dough whenever I would make cookies, and I would eat the entire batch of one of just the dough. And then I would eat the cookies of the other batch.
Wow.
Ice cream cartons by myself, entire pizzas by myself, donuts, everything. Like, I was mentally ill.
Yeah.
I was mentally ill. And the only comfort that I had was sugar and carbs.
Mm.
And so that's what I was eating. And then overnight, I went from that to 50% animal meat and 50% animal fat. And I say that not to make people worried about percentages, but just to get the point across that you need to eat high fat to break those sugar and carb addictions. You need to be satiated. So I did that. And how I did that, I don't know. I mean, it now I look back and it's an absolute miracle. But I did it. And it was difficult at first. I had those, flu-like symptoms, and but I'd already been feeling so horrible that it was just another pile of horrible. And so it didn't matter to me. And then about 3 weeks in, I was hospitalized. So a logical person would say, okay, I started eating this diet and I need to stop eating this crazy meat diet. But whenever I was hospitalized for acute dysphagia, which means that my throat stopped swallowing. I couldn't swallow water. I couldn't swallow meat. I even tried to blend my meat into a pate. But I could only get down like 3 bites a day. And whenever I was in the hospital, they did an MRI and they discovered that I have multiple sclerosis. And that was beyond devastating. Like, I was already, battling, not being in the psych ward. And now I was looking at going into a nursing home, because with multiple sclerosis, you don't get better. You just get worse. You get to the point where you can't hold your bladder or your bowel movements, and you can't walk, or you have to be in a wheelchair. Like, it just keeps getting worse. So thankfully, I was already on this way of eating, and I just continued it. Even in the hospital, I told the cafeteria, the people that came and brought my food, just bring me meat. And it wasn't good quality meat. It was just meat instead of pudding or applesauce or whatever. And then I got the traditional onset of symptoms of MS. And that was, I couldn't walk without an assistive device. I had delayed and slurred speech. And I had more significant brain fog than I had ever had with the bipolar disorder. But I had this knowing that if MS is inflammatory, then if me eating less inflammatory foods, that it's got to help, and that was my goal. That was really my goal. Okay, here we go. I got this other, lot in life. Great. I will help make it better. I did not know in a million years that on May 9th was going to be my last symptom of multiple sclerosis. So I have been able to walk and talk and think, and run circles around 20-year-olds that I work with. I'm 43. And I'm totally fine. I work out every day. Like, you don't get over MS, but no. I did. And also in April of 2019, I had my last bipolar episode. And then my psychiatrist and I went back to work full time in June of 2019. And he was like, "You're doing so good. Let's taper off of your meds." And then my last psych med was September of 2019. So this is 3 years that I have been resolved from things that are supposed to take you out and you're not supposed to get better from. But I've got to stick with it. If I vary, I feel it. And over time, I've had to even get better sources of meat and fat. And the healing is continuing. I still have so many things that I'm healing. But that's pretty much my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, when we talked, I think the first time it might have been October of 2020. I'll have to, or 2019, maybe even after that, because we've done 2 chats, and I know we did. I can't remember when the first one was.
Our first one was January of 2020. And then a couple months later, we did the meat one, the Keto one.
The Keto one. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense, because I remember we had kind of like some hit or misses to schedule it. And you're like, it's fine that it's been delayed, because I've had even more healing since we initially talked. And you don't ever really talk about this, which I think is kind of cool that you don't, but you also lost like 120 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal. Like, I dropped 120 pounds also. Because people, a lot of times I feel like they are looking at carnivore to lose weight. And I think it can help them to lose weight. But what I think is even more cool is a story like yours, that yeah, the weight loss is like something you don't even mention when I'm like, tell your story, because that's how insignificant in your overall story that it is, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't my goal, and I really, the clients that I worked with, I see that it's really not a worthwhile goal.
Yeah.
Like, it just isn't. It's about how you feel, and it's about your health. Is weight loss going to come? Yeah, absolutely. It's like the icing on the cake kind of a thing. It's like the added bonus. It's going to come, but it can't be. What I've found is that it can't be your driving force, because that scale is going to tell you lies.
Yeah.
And so how else do you measure weight? I mean, you could do measurements, but most people don't. Most people just look at the scale, and it's just not a worthwhile goal.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, the weight loss is a side effect of improving your overall health. And that's what you did. I mean, the fact that you went off of all these different medications that most people, once they start them, they have to basically be on them for life. The fact that you were able to come off of those, I mean, that's in itself enough of a story. It's amazing to me.
It wasn't just a little bit. It was, I mean, I was with a psychiatrist for probably 8 years before this all happened, before it just came to a head. And I was at my most on 900 milligrams of lithium, 80 milligrams of Prozac, 80 milligrams of Adderall just to get out of bed every day, and Ambien to sleep every night. So you don't get off of those.
No, just the Ambien alone, people end up being addicted to for years and years. I mean, I can speak from experience of trying to come off of different sleeping medications. It's hard. I mean, it's very hard. Physically, and then psychologically, it's hard too, because you almost get to this place where you feel like, I need this medicine in order to just, like you said, just get out of bed and function. So did you do any kind of like emotional work along with this, or was it just like that kind of came as a full package?
Absolutely. I actually had a tragedy happen in March of 2020, along with the whole rest of the world, but I had a personal tragedy happen, and it could have derailed everything. But what it did was it made me dig in even more. And so I got super intentional. I read The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer.
Yes.
And it changed my life. It reminded me, or actually did remind me, because I feel like we have this knowing inside of us. It reminded me that pain needs to pass through me. I don't need to hold on to pain. I can allow it. And so I got really intentional with my meditation, and with my prayer. And along with that, I had this friend named Carnivore Yogi, who really talked to me about some different things, like getting sunlight in the morning in my eyes. And I know that that sounds like just a basic, simple thing. And that doesn't count as therapy, but it does.
Yeah, definitely.
It absolutely does. When I'm standing there with my feet on the ground and my eyes in the sun, the healing that comes into my soul and my spirit is it's like 10 therapy sessions. Because I'm reminded of who I am. I'm reminded that I am this incredible being on planet Earth, and that I was designed with an incredible purpose for such a time as this. And it's just like plugging into that energy and that knowing every single day, well, every single day that the sun's out, it's everything to me. And so that's how I healed. That's how I continued. Because just because you don't have bipolar disorder anymore, symptoms, I still have it. I just don't have the symptoms. Doesn't mean that you're automatically, able to manage the world and manage
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I mean, we all have healing to do. Most people don't have to deal with having something like bipolar disorder, and they're having enough of a hard time just being human. I think this whole being a human is its own set of difficulties for sure. And, just that's why I love sharing your story, because I'm like, if Emily can go from the challenges that she had being bedridden, not even able to walk, and bipolar and on all these medications, and now not only are you doing so much better, off the medications, thriving, but you spend a great deal of your time helping others. I mean, I watch on social media, you're always either coaching or doing these like recovery meetings that you do now. And I think like that is so vital to your healing, as well as, you have to, in order to keep something, I feel like you have to give it away, right?
Yeah, and it fuels me. It really
Yeah.
fuels me. Whenever I first started this, it was funny. I had my uh you know moment where I really felt healing.
Mhm.
And I sent a message to Michaela Peterson and to Sean Baker, and said, "Thank you for saving my life." And I just had the before and after of my symptoms, before carnivore and after my symptoms resolving. And they both posted it on the same day.
Mm.
And so then I got this just inundated with all of these messages and questions and everything. And because of my bipolar disorder, I was still, healing from that. I got obsessed. Like I just started like answering questions, like feverishly, like even if somebody would like, be messaging me like into the night. And I was just like, okay, I need to structure this.
Yeah.
Like I can't help everybody,
Yeah.
I can't answer all this. And that's whenever, you encouraged me and some other people encouraged me to start a YouTube channel. And then I was able to, structure it a little bit more to be able to not have to repeat the same answer
Yeah,
50 million
exactly.
times. I could just
Exactly.
send a video and say, hey, I made a video about that.
Yeah. I think that's really why I started my channel too. Is just like you get all these messages, and then you realize after a while, a lot of people are asking a lot of the same
Yeah.
questions. And so now I even still to this day, I'll get people messaging me and I'm like, oh, I made a video on that here, instead of having to go through and type the whole thing. So I think that that's really, really awesome. And, what do you think the biggest lesson for you has been from coaching, from helping other people?
Um, it's individual, to
Yeah.
help people where they're at. Because I have somebody who will come to me and they are like a horse, like waiting to get out of the gate. Like
Yeah.
they are just ready. And then I have other people who come to me that are just like, don't touch my cinnamon rolls and don't touch my biscuits and gravy, and I'm like, okay, like, all right, let's do this. Let's go through. So some people really need that, like, rip the band-aid off, and some people really need to slowly go into this. And everyone needs help with their mindset. And it was really beautiful the way that now I look at it, the way that I've been prepared, because I traditionally, like my profession was, that I have my master's in clinical counseling. And so it just made sense for me to help, because that's just what I've always done. But now I'm able to help effectively,
Yeah.
because with my license, licensing board didn't want me to talk to my clients about nutrition. They didn't want
Yeah.
me to talk about anything but, just the modalities, the things that I had been trained in. And now I'm able to just let go of my license and go, okay, I'm a coach. I don't care. I don't need a title of a therapist. I don't need that. I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been doing the free Saturday meetings, because there's so many people that are so mentally ill that they can't even take the steps that it takes to reach out to me for coaching, but they can watch a recording of a meeting on YouTube.
Yes.
And then they'll message me and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was the answer that I needed. And it's been cool because yes, it's for the people, it's for everybody, but it fuels me and it keeps me in a right mind and it keeps me healing,
Yeah.
because I'm still healing. I still have so many things that are not quite right yet from 40
Yeah.
years of eating sugar and carbs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it's everyone wants to kind of heal overnight. Everyone wants this to be like a quick thing, but it does take time. And I think as you start healing, like you've lost the weight, you've gone off the meds, but there's still more and more layers that get uncovered, I think, as you continue to go through this journey of healing, right?
Yeah. And I didn't realize how much addiction there is.
Oh gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
I didn't realize until because Sarah, I didn't do this with a coach. I
Right.
literally did
You
it
just did it.
overnight.
Yeah.
I did it. And now that I see all these people struggle, I'm like, wow, I realize what a miracle it was that I just
Mm,
set my mind to it. And part of it, I think, is the bipolar disorder, that I was just so determined that I was just like, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm doing this.
yes.
But other people with not mental illness, that they're trying to go through this and it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason for the support group, is that we need a community. We need to look at how are other people going through this, or how are other people doing this,
Right.
and to support each other and to have a place that you can go say on Saturday, hey, I went a whole week and didn't eat sugar and carbs, and we can cheer you on.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I mean, since the last time we talked, the pandemic has happened. And I think that that's made a lot more people just more comfortable to hop on Zoom for these
Yeah.
types of things. And I think it's so vital when you're trying to do something like carnivore, right? To heal your body, you need support. Like the rest of the world and your family and your friends, they're not going to be supportive a lot of the time. They're going to think you're crazy. And so how, do a lot of the people that come on your meetings kind of express that it's just like their saving grace to be able to come in these meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be accepted, wherever they're at. I'm like, we have people who are eating keto. We have people who are
Yeah.
eating, ketovore. Um, my whole thing is just to break the addiction from processed foods.
Mm,
And that we can all agree on.
yeah.
We can all agree that processed foods and sugar and junk carbs,
Yeah.
are not helping us, are not helping our health. And so that's really what I focus on. I don't focus on carnivore, only. I think that there is many different ways that you can get there, but the thing that I hear the most in those meetings is my husband thinks I'm crazy, or my friends think I'm crazy, or at work I feel so weird, eating a steak, or eating, chicken wings or burger or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're able to have this safe place that they can come. And even if they don't come to the meetings, they can watch the recordings,
Yeah.
and go, okay, I can do this. Like, I can do this. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I think that's what helps too. I mean, that's how I got started really, was I had to listen to as many podcasts as I could find. I just kind of surrounded myself with that energy because yeah, you do feel lonely and you do feel like, am I actually going to be able to do this? And it is hard. So I love that you do that for people. And do you do a lot of like one-on-one coaching as well, or is it usually a lot of the group stuff?
No, I do one-on-ones. Basically what I do is I have people, anybody who wants coaching, I have them come out for this first call. And then I get to know them and they get to know me and we see if we're a fit. Because if we are a fit, then I work with them for 8 weeks. And it's so funny because when I first started out, I was just doing 30 minutes. And I realized that that was a broken model.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
that was not working, because people would, get all pumped up and they would talk to me for 30 minutes and I'd be like, you can do this and this and this and this. And then they'd go and they'd fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
And it became unethical to me.
Yeah.
It became like, I don't want your money. If I want you well, I want
Yeah.
you healing. And so I realized that it was the people that stayed connected to me and that they were the ones that were thriving and that were, knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this 8-week system where it goes step by step, where I really hold your hand through what it's like to go through the transition, and what it's like to really focus on your mindset and get your mindset in the right place. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, I go into some of the things that we've talked about with the grounding and the quantum health, because if you start out that way, it's way too overwhelming for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gives them a progressive education about all the different things that are out there that they can learn about and they can improve their health with.
Yeah, I think if you try to tell people to change their entire life on the first day, it's like you said, they're gonna fall flat on their face. So we have to make these like small changes, like in incremental steps, instead of trying to, I think that's what happens with a lot of people with any type of lifestyle change. It's like, okay, Monday, I'm going to get up at 5. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to eat clean. And then by like 3 o'clock, they're at the gas station getting soda and candy, and they're like, what happened? It's like, because you tried to change your whole life in one day. Like, you can't, most people are going to have a really hard time doing that unless they have some sort of a life-threatening condition like you had. I think you had the the motivation in that regard. You're like, all right, this is not how my life is going to be. I'm not going to allow the situation to take me down. Some people would have, though, some people would have, but you were just like, nope, not going to happen.
Well, and I think you need to operate in success. I think that if you set the bar way too high and you keep trying to jump for that bar and you just keep failing, you're reinforcing that you're a failure. You're telling your brain and your body, you failed yesterday, you're going to fail again. Here's this goal, you're going to fail. You need to lower that. You need to get to the place where you can operate in success on a daily basis. And you do almost need kind of an outward pair of eyes to talk you through and say, okay, now you can push it a little bit more. Now you can push it a little bit more. And you need to continue operating in success, because failure is worthless. I mean, failure is just, it's totally pointless and it's not part of the plan at all. So if this is where you're at and you continue to, no, just lower the goal. We're writing our own story. We're writing our own plan. So we get to change it. We get to say, here's the goal. That's where we're going to go eventually. But today we're going to operate in success. Today we're going to eat less, donuts or whatever.
Yeah. Like the people that come to you and they're like, don't mess with my cinnamon rolls or my donuts. How do you help those people?
I ask them what meats they do like, what animal fats they do like, And I just suggest that they eat that first.
Gotcha.
And so that they have that in their mind. And it's a process of just shifting instead of going from 0 to 60, you're just shifting things.
Yeah.
And then I do it really gradually and really slowly. And it's so funny because I had this one client who I was doing that with her, and she was just like, it was a month in, and she goes, I see what you did. She goes, you tricked me into this. I was like, I didn't trick you. I didn't trick you. I asked your goals and I helped you get towards your goals. And she was just like, but it worked. She was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, whatever works. I think sometimes if you can trick somebody into better behavior, then they're better off for it. But a lot of people come into different lifestyles and they argue for their limitations, and that can be really difficult. So do you come across that a lot in your coaching?
Yeah. It's funny because what I say is the difference between royalty and peasants. And historically, if you look at it, royalty eats meat and fat. They get the fat of the land, and the peasants are the ones that eat the wheat and the grains and the refined sugars and stuff. And so I just say, you're royalty. Like, you really need to feed your body what is best. And they don't see that they are worthy. They don't see that they are royalty. But and I really, and that's a whole nother part of the 8 weeks that I do, is that we focus on really valuing yourself and loving yourself, and realizing that everything else is going to fall away. Your family, your job, everything else is going to fall away if you don't take care of yourself. You're number one. Like, you have to take care of yourself, and you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And, you've mentioned on your own journey, just noticing that you don't feel as optimal when you've tried to add different things back in. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I did an experiment with raw milk. And because I thought, I'm healing, and so I can do this. And I was really excited, and I really loved it. My favorite part about it was I gained 15 pounds. I was so happy. It was only 8 ounces a day. 8 ounces of raw milk a day, you can gain 15 pounds.
Wow.
But and I held on to that weight gain by increasing my fat intentionally. I wasn't just increasing the fat for satiation or anything else. But so I eat a half a pound of fat a day. But I did it for 5 months. And I started just to not feel well, and I started to get scales.
Oh.
Yeah, I got scales right here, just like right around my eyebrows, and they started flaking like really bad. And that's a sign of autoimmune response and food allergy.
Yeah.
And it started getting really red and just like chapped, and so milk is not my thing. And I also tried egg yolks because I know that egg whites are usually more of a culprit with autoimmune and stuff. And so I did, I believe, 3 egg yolks a day. And I only lasted, I think, a month. And then I was at work one day, and we have like these name badges, and it was hanging on my lanyard. And all of a sudden I'm talking to a coworker, and I'm like, yeah, really? Oh, okay. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I need to stop. So I stopped, and all the itching went away. But my body just loves beef and beef fat. So I just stay there.
Yeah. So you're still just carnivore, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've been raw for 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, it's out of laziness. It's so much easier just to, what I do is I freeze my meat into little chunks, put it on parchment paper, put it in the freezer in a container. And then I just roll it out on the cutting board and I eat it with chopsticks. And I just feel so much better eating raw. I can eat cooked. Like I'll go to the restaurant and order it with no seasoning and no oil. And I can eat a ribeye. I can eat it. I'll go over to my dad's and he'll grill up, a ribeye. But for day to day, it's just so much easier for me just to eat raw.
Yeah. And do you get a lot of pushback from your family at all now, even after all these years?
No.
Yeah.
They see that I'm thriving, and they remember my crazy. They remember how bad it was. And they saw me when I couldn't walk,
Yeah.
my son, we were at the movies and, he had those little Dove chocolates. And I was just like, hey, let me try one of those. And he goes, no, you won't be able to walk.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, babe, like, are you, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I get you. Like they associate mom eating sugar,
Yeah.
means she couldn't walk.
Wow.
And so,
That's powerful.
yeah, so it
Have
keeps me in
you
line.
ever tried anything like that while you've been carnivore? Just like, I'll just try a little piece of chocolate or try a little bit of this and that. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried raw unheated honey. And that gave me a heartburn,
Mhm.
a chest pain. There was something, it wasn't lilies, but it was some kind of really, really, really clean. It was just like cocoa butter and cocoa, and sugar, I think, chocolate chips. And, I had like a handful of them and it was good. Like it wasn't,
Yeah.
didn't, but I didn't want it. Like,
Yeah.
I had it and I remembered what it tasted like.
Yeah.
And that's it. It
Yeah.
really wasn't anything that I wanted to do. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I find like if people want to have like a little something every now and then, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're doing it every single day, if you have the little something and then it leads to you doing that every single day, that's when people start running into problems. I don't see people have like, a little piece of chocolate and then all of a sudden, I mean, some people can't, their body can't handle it, but a lot of people, their body does fine with it. And so the like addict part of the brain is like, well, we got away with it, so we can have it tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And that is that slippery slope, I think, that leads to problems for people. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I do not eat anything if I'm in that kind of a mode.
Mindset.
If
Yeah.
if I am in I've had a bad day or I'm tired or I'm angry or anything like that,
Yeah.
I eat fat. I always eat fat. Like,
Mm,
because I know that that's just an addicted mind response.
yeah.
That's not me needing to nourish my body.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a good place and I'm like, hey, I'm going to see what it tastes like. I'm going to see what it feels like to try this, but it really just, it never, it doesn't really serve me very much.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I did it. It's just like saying I went and, got my nails painted. Like, yeah, I did it. Like, I don't need to do it every day,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's a healthy place to be. It's just like, yeah, it doesn't take over your whole life. And I think there's definitely emotional work that needs to be done if people kind of get to that place where they're like one little thing sets them off. Um, do you work with people who kind of go into that situation?
Who do what?
As far as like they have one little treat and then it sends them off into a downward
Yeah.
spiral for months at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, they get frustrated with me because they'll email me and they'll be like, I did this and blah, 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 and like confessing their sins. And I'm like, great. I'm like, awesome. Now we have an experiment.
Yeah.
Like now we can learn from this. Let's break it down. Let's talk about the events that led up to that day. And they're like, oh, well, I got in a fight with my husband And I had somebody at work who didn't do what they said they were going to do. And then my kid wouldn't get his shoes on. And, like all of these other little things that I'm like, okay, so we need to focus on those other little things. And to whenever they pop up again, go, okay, I'm in a danger zone. Like I'm in a danger zone, because we go on autopilot and we're just like, yeah, I did fine yesterday. I'm going to do fine today. But then these things pop up and we don't realize that we really need to be intentional about what we're doing.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, that's where the emotional work comes in, because a lot of people, I think they give the food a little too much power. I mean, it's important. We need it. Obviously, your situation shows how powerful the right diet can be for a body. But I think people give it a little too much power, and they don't really, like I said, deal with what's going on inside of them. What led you to that point where you felt like eating that food was going to be the thing to make you feel better, right?
Right. And like we said in our Instagram live recently, meat is the gateway
Yeah.
drug. It is the one thing that is a foundational thing. It's awesome, but there's so much more healing that
Yeah.
I would never have gotten if I hadn't done the work. I was able to do the work because my mind was clear of sugar and carbs. And I'm able to still do even more work. Like I just signed up for your Harnessing the Sunlight course.
Yes.
And I recognize that there's still some things that are not right in my body that I'm still healing from. And I think that so many times people are only getting this message that meat heals everything. All you have to do is eat meat and you're going to be great.
Right.
No, I'm sorry that the world is not that simple, but you need to start that foundation so that you can start the next level of foundation, so that you can go to the next level of foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that can get a little bit frustrating, because there is more after we start eating meat to do in order to heal. And it's, if you're open-minded about it, the healing never really stops. We always have more to learn. There's always more that we need to do. So for you, what would you say, like, since the last time that we talked on an interview, like in January 2020, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned, that's a little unexpected?
I think that my biggest thing that I have now, and I had it then, but is to hear other people. And to learn from other people. Because I think that at the beginning, I thought, oh, well, I have this success and this success. I lost 100 pounds. Know about bipolar disorder, no MS. Like I thought that was it. Like that was everything. And so we can get lost in our own successes and our own victories. And I had this limiting belief. I didn't know that there were like 10 more layers of healing to go. Because Sarah, I'm not who I was a year ago.
No, you're not. No, but no one is, hopefully.
Yeah. And so this was 3 years ago, and to know that the healing continues and that it's okay where I'm at. I'm on time. Whoever's listening to this is on time. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. We just have to do what we're supposed to do at this level so that tomorrow we can learn more. And as we know better, we do better. And we just continue listening and learning, because we're going to be learning for years. You and I, Sarah, we're not going to be who we're going to be in 10 years.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. And I'd love to know, kind of on that thread, like, what is something that you maybe once held true to, thought was like word, that you no longer believe, maybe in the space of diet or food, in the last couple of years?
Absolutely. Getting out of the grocery store was everything to me. I had no idea that, there were so many other components at play there, and that they present food that is not food. And, you know, in any kind of the processed food and everything, and even in the grocery store, and that there's so much better right here in my backyard. Just to go and talk to a farmer, and to get to know that. And the bigger picture is that it regenerates the land. And I want to be here in 30 years. You know, I want to be where there's nutrients in the soil. And you can't do that if you don't have animals grazing the land and being rotating for grazing. And so it's absolutely important, and it's important for us to continue as a society, for us to have freedom in our food. I have learned so much about that. And you know, that has become a passion of mine that I didn't realize whenever I was just on food stamps, living out of a camper,
Right.
And eating at the grocery store.
Well, I think you were doing the best that you could at the time. But
Yeah.
that's another valid thing to bring up that I don't think a lot, because I get a lot of people on my channel, like, and I think it's a lot more of like arguing for your limitations. I'm not trying to sound insensitive, but like, I can't afford a carnivore diet. I can't afford meat from a farm. I can't afford, I'm like, have you tried? You
Yeah.
know,
And start where you're at, you know,
Yeah.
just like that shifting of don't touch my biscuits and gravy.
Right.
Okay. So how many pounds can you afford?
Yeah.
Oh, so what if we get, 5 pounds of ground beef from the grocery store and 5 pounds of ground beef from the farm?
Yeah.
And then let's see when we can shift that, when we can go, 4, 6, when we can go, like, just, you got to start somewhere and then just shift it.
Mm-hmm. How were you able to work? I know we had talked about this in like another interview, but when you were kind of in that place, living in a trailer park and, shopping at the grocery store, how did you make that work with a farmer?
I went to the farmer and I said, okay, I am making a commitment to you. I was in a place where I didn't have an option. I couldn't go back to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And so I was able to say that to the farmer. I'm not going back to the grocery store.
Right.
I am
You couldn't, because it made you
only,
sick, right?
it made me very sick,
Yeah.
very sick. And I, for the whole first year, I ate out of the grocery store and I was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And then until I wasn't.
Yeah.
But once I wasn't, I was reacting to whatever they put on that meat to preserve it or whatever. I was reacting to it, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to have farm fresh, local grass-fed beef. So I went to the farmer and I said, here is my very first order was $100. I said, I have $100, and just give me whatever you can give me for $100. And my promise is that I'm going to come back to you. I'm not going to go back to the grocery store. And so I got $100 worth of meat. And then whenever I ate that, I went back and I had $100. And I think the third time I went to her, I had $200. And now I buy my meat 2 months at a time. I have a deep freeze. Yeah, I have a deep freeze, and I buy 90 pounds at a time.
Wow. See, that's the other thing I think that allows this to be a little bit more affordable is if you buy in bulk from a farmer, it's much less expensive than actually buying something from the grocery store a lot of the time. Especially, if you're comparing grass fed to the farm quality, which is better usually than the grass fed at the grocery store, much better quality. And if you buy in bulk that way and get a chest freezer, you're going to be saving quite a bit of money. So I think people, like you said, you have to just find a place to start, like go to your farmer, say, this is how much I have, set aside that money, and then eventually shift that over, because I don't want there to be like barrier points of entry for people when they're trying to make such changes like this. I want it to be accessible to everyone. And your farmer, they a lot of times are willing to work with you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and that, honestly, there's so many other levels to that, because then you're voting with your dollar.
Yeah, you're supporting your local economy. Yep.
And it's just so worth it. It's so worth it on so many levels.
I agree.
And I'm just really, that's the one thing I'm really grateful that I've changed my mind about.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, because I remember the first time I interviewed you, and I think that that's helpful too, because somebody who's really sick, like you said, there are people that are really struggling with mental illness. They can't even get it together to schedule a Zoom call with you, and I feel like I've known that person. I feel like at some points I've been that person that it's just like, you need to make a change, you know what to do, but you can't. Your dopamine is so incredibly low, and your serotonin and all that stuff is so low, and it's so damaged that you just can't like conceptualize what the next step is. And so, just maybe watching that video or going to the store, getting whatever you can find, getting what's easy, that's where you start. And there's so much that people, it has to be like this perfect um journey, and that's not realistic, and I don't think it needs to be that way in order for people to really find that lasting healing that they need.
Yeah. You just need to start where you're at.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. Well, what is your favorite story of healing of all the people that you've worked with in your coaching business? And I know that's probably a hard one to answer, but
That is hard. I actually have one. We did a recording, and her name's Trina. So if you go to my YouTube, you can look up Trina's review. And she was miserable. She was had mental illness, drug addiction. She came from just the worst of the worst of the worst. Very, very hopeless. And she had tried everything. And she had this addictive mind. And she was struggling. And for some reason, she came to me and hired me. And whenever we started, she just dove in and she did the work. And that's what I think I really loved about working with her, was that it wasn't that she was arguing for her limitations. She was just like, okay,
ready to do this.
like she couldn't handle one more day of her life.
Yeah.
She didn't like the way that she was acting towards her husband, towards her children. And she was terrified that she was going to go back to drug using. And so that's why she hired me, because she was like, I can't open up that part of my brain. I can't revisit that. I can't go back to drugs. And so you got to help me get through this sugar addiction. And we did. And I was able to watch her before my eyes become a different person. And so it was the coolest experience for me to get to witness it. Like, I got a front row seat to her transformation and watching the light come on in her eyes. Like, she would listen and talk and everything, but then all of a sudden it was just like she was there, like she was present. And now, I mean, it's been months since we worked together. And I just checked in with her a couple of weeks ago, and she was just like, Emily, I'm thriving. I'm doing so well. And it's really cool to watch somebody recognize their value. And that's one of the things that she says in the review was, I like myself.
Yeah.
I like myself.
Amazing.
And it's a miracle. It's so cool.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
And I guess one more question, what is something that you're excited about coming up in the future? Do you have anything that you're planning that you're excited about or looking forward to in your business or personal or anything like that?
I think continuing these 8-week things that I'm doing, because I love to help people, but I am addicted to helping people effectively. I mean, whenever I haven't had one person that has gone through this 8 weeks, that has, really dug in and done the work and not had phenomenal results. And not just, okay, that did something, but lasting results where after the 8 weeks, when they're not meeting with me anymore, that they are still on the same track. I look at it like a one-way valve, where I don't want people to just go this way and then come back and then go and come back. Like, I want it to be a one-way valve where we don't pass this way again. We are changed. We are transformed. And that's been the coolest thing for me. And I still, I still have people doing that right now, and I can't wait to get more clients. It's so fun.
I love it. Well, if someone did want to work with you or just find you and see your work, I'm going to put all this in the information section, but what's the best way to do that?
Honestly, in there, to email me, innerclaritysystem @gmail.com. That is the best way to get a hold of me, the most clear shot to get a hold of me, because sometimes things get lost in my messages on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just too much. But innerclaritysystem @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to link that below. And any other thoughts from the conversation at all? Anything you want to share that's important to you?
No, just thank you. Because I have just been, hanging on to your coattails, and I'm learning so much from you. And if you hadn't taught me about the sun, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. And it was just like this little seed that you planted in me. And then I was just like, oh yeah, like I remember Sarah talking about that. And it's just now it's even growing more as I'm learning more about quantum health from you, and all of your interviews that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Emily. Well, this has been so cool. We'll definitely have to do it again, not wait another like 2 years before we do a catch-up episode, but I just love you to death. I think you're just a wonderful, amazing person. I love the light that you shine into the world and how much you help people. So thank you for all you do. And thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. It's a pleasure and a joy. And I'm so grateful to be on this journey.
Aw. All right.